Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 22nd September 2023. My name is T.S.V. Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. Hardan, 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 Haribol, TRSV, Nectar, NECTAR, Nectar. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been discussing about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. This particular video in this vlog is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is a mere continuation of all that we have been doing in all my previous videos. Kindly subscribe to my vlog and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my previous and future videos. So let us continue with the topic for discussion for today's video. In the past few videos, we have been talking about liberation of a human living entity from this cycle of repeated births and deaths, and in that process we have already reached the astral level of body of a human living entity. We all know that even if a human living entity, whether male or female, has got self realized and in the process of liberation shed off his or her gross body and the etheric body of senses for good, even then he or she cannot boast of coming to his or her original position as an evolved spiritual ego. There are two more layers of material body still left and which are still enveloping the spirit soul and providing it a cocoon that will entrap it in this particular material world as a human living entity. In the astral world, we talked about other births as an astral subtle bodied human living entity, and we also talked about one particular term called genius. We all know through one English proverb that talent is what you possess, but genius is what possesses you. Genius is one power used by one astral human living entity to possess some gross bodied human living entity in this material world and in a society for some time when this particular person uses his or her extraordinary cerebral and other faculties to achieve some extraordinary success in his or her chosen field of action, whether or not he is a politician, a doctor, an engineer, a scientist, an actor, a sportsman, and so on. There have been several religions who have performed extraordinary feats in the society, so much so that the others in the society, the other mortals, have chosen these extraordinary icons and legends to emulate and to think that these mortals can also be one like that person sooner or later. But here, every one of us misunderstands the actual fact that this extraordinary icon, due to his or her destiny and karma, is temporarily possessed by a genius from the astral world who maneuvers, monitors, and regulates the efforts and decisions of this particular otherwise ordinary mortal in the society. We know of several stars who have been possessed by such genius someday or the other for some period or the other. In some cases, it possesses for a short time, and in other cases, it possesses for a long time. It all depends on several factors, but the main factor is that though this genius from the astral world does possess an ordinary mortal, this mortal may not necessarily have the capacity to digest the energy thus produced and provided by the genius. Sooner or later, this person may try to wriggle himself or herself out of this possession of this genius either by choice or by default, by design, advertently, inadvertently, or in the process of trying to assert himself or herself. Genius is a very, very jealous mistress. When genius possesses a particular living entity who is otherwise mortal, then though it provides extraordinary success and goodies, it also demands absolute loyalty from that particular possessed mortal human and living entity. Genius actually feels that it actually owns this particular mortal as long as it possesses him or her lock, stock, and barrel. This is a very difficult position. It is a catch 22 situation. On one side, it is providing a lot of success to that possessed individual, but at the same time, it does not allow this individual to exercise his or her free will in choosing a particular lifestyle in the society. If it is not approved by the genius, then this person has to shy away from such lifestyle, girlfriends, boyfriends, lovers, etc. When the genius possesses such a living entity, it decides who this man or woman has to be with as long as this genius is possessing him or her. In this process, yesterday we talked about a case history of a famous French emperor called Napoleon Bonaparte. It is this Napoleon Bonaparte himself who is supposed to have quipped once when he was at the pinnacle of success. From the sublime to the ridiculous, it is but a step. If you make one a wrong move, you may come down hurtling from your top or ivory tower into this terra firma or into this hard ground. There is a proverb in English, it is very lonely at the top. That means that any ordinary human mortal who this genius possesses and which helps this particular mortal reach the top finds himself or herself quite lonely at that position because no one else among the mortals can reach that level as long as this genius is possessing him or her. If this mortal makes one wrong move, this genius would sooner or later leave this person as a result of which this person will come down hurtling into the terra firma faster than what it took for him to reach that top. The downfall from the top to the bottom is faster than what it takes to reach from the bottom to the top. Today we shall discuss about another case history which is quite strange and which we all mortals can pray for in our own lifetime. In this case, this person went to the top from the bottom and remained at the top when he or he actually not he passed on at a very early age. So let us begin about this particular case history. In the year 1902, in the month of February, one boy was born in Hong Kong. This boy grew up quite educated and intelligent, and he was a Chinese by his caste or creed or community. This guy was also a very talented person. Soon, when he reached his adulthood, he began his career as a Cantonese opera actor and soon rose to national, local, and international stardom in that particular chosen profession. He was a very trained dancer and actor who made a lot of money in his chosen profession. This guy had several offsprings, but of them, one we are going to talk about in this particular case history. This is because probably the living entity which took birth as this person had been chosen by some genius even before he was born in this family. While the other offsprings of this opera star were born in Hong Kong, when this man had his wife conceive this boy, he got an invitation to perform in the state of California in United States of America in the city of San Francisco. Hence, in the 1940s, this opera star sailed to San Francisco with his own wife. However, while they were in San Francisco, this child, which was already conceived, was due for delivery, and on 27th November 1940, when the opera star and his wife, were in San Francisco, this baby was born. Because it was born in San Francisco, hence it became an American citizen by birth. This boy had been christened with some local Chinese name, but he would later become a legend, an international icon as Bruce Lee. It is about this Bruce Lee that we are going to talk in this particular case history. It looks as if some astral genius had spotted this living entity even before it was born. As soon as this happened, this genius took over the complete destiny of this particular child. Thus, on 27th November 1940, when this boy, Bruce Lee, was born, it was the year of the dragon in the Chinese mythology. The year of dragon is quite special, and it gives birth to those who are born here as born fighters and survivors. Bruce Lee was born in this year of dragon. However, things did not happen overnight. As a child, the same Bruce Lee starred in some of his own father's films in Chinese in Hong Kong and abroad. This boy was an average student who frequently got into trouble with other kids of the block in Hong Kong. He was up to some fight or mischief or the other, which made his parents sigh with tension and with sorrow because this guy invariably made them quite distraught and angry. This boy upset the whole apple cart in the family, so much so that while his elder brother and his sisters were quite good, well behaved children, this boy always brought trouble into the family through various endless fights with other children. It was at the time when Hong Kong was occupied by the British colonialists, as a result of which this boy got into fights with not only Chinese children but also with high-browed British children. He invariably got bruised and hurt, but this did not deter him from getting into some trouble or the other. Bruce Lee, like his father, was a very talented dancer, and naturally it could be deduced that he would one day become a dancer in a particular school of dancing called salsa. However, due to the prejudice of the British boys in that locality, he was prevented from becoming a normal dancer even during his school days. This led to several fights during his childhood and adulthood. However, one day when he was 18 in the year 1958, this boy got into trouble with a member of the deadly Chinese criminal organization called Triad. Genius had already started possessing him for good or for bad. In fact, a few years before this boy was spotted and selected by one martial arts teacher who persuaded his reluctant father, that is Bruce Lee's reluctant father, to allow Bruce Lee to be a disciple of that martial arts teacher. Everyone was surprised when they found that the same Bruce Lee who was actually winning the award of a black sheep hands down in his own house year after year began suddenly focusing on mastery of this martial art called Kung Fu. So much so that even the teacher was surprised at Bruce Lee's dedication and expertise in this particular style of martial art. Things moved quite fast because genius had begun possessing this boy. You may be reminded that actually it was this genius from the astral world which had chosen this boy to possess him. This boy, when he was just 18, got into trouble with some dreaded mafia called a trail boss, and as a result of this, the police chieftain of Hong Kong persuaded his own father to force Bruce Lee to relocate to his citizenship country, United States of America. This is how the genius operates. It probably knew in advance that Bruce Lee will have to one day relocate to United States of America, and that is the reason why Bruce Lee was born on 27th November 1940 in San Francisco, California, United States of America. Bruce Lee was by birth fluent in Chinese and English, so he did not find it very difficult to get adjusted to his new life as a citizen of America at the age of 18. By the time this boy had already picked up his pieces in America, he had already decided that he will introduce Kung Fu, the Chinese style of martial arts, to the Americans. While working as an newspaper errand boy, a waiter or so, this boy focused only on this aim of his. He probably knew even then that he had come here for a specific assignment and that genius from the astral world has possessed him in such a way that it was paving the way of success for Bruce Lee in this particular line of thought in America. Bruce Lee became a kung fu coach and started his own school in a place in California called some Oakland or something. Here he taught kung fu to various English and Chinese students. Sooner he started doing some road shows where Bruce Lee, who stood just 5'8" and weighed just 165 pounds, could with one punch knock down bigger and heavier both Chinese and American Europeans guys who wanted to compete with him in his martial arts. Despite several oppositions and fights with people who were already teaching other schools of thought in martial arts to Americans like karate, judo, etc., Bruce Lee, thanks to his genius, came over all such opposition and soon became a local kung fu star. So much so that Hollywood decided to introduce him to a couple of films based on his martial arts called Kung Fu. They were The Big Boss, Enter the Dragon, Return of the Dragon, etc. Of these, Enter the Dragon got such international stardom that soon enough Bruce Lee became an international martial arts star. He was in demand in Hollywood as well as in the Hong Kong film industry. Thus, this guy was able to establish his school of martial arts in this world to, to the chagrin of others who did not want him to do this, but they could do nothing. As they say, it is quite lonely at the top. Bruce Lee found himself at the top in his chosen field, and he probably felt quite lonely there because of his superstardom in both Hollywood as well as his local Hong Kong film industry. Bruce Lee performed some incredible and impossible feats in Kung Fu and made the whole multitude of humanity, both in China and in the world, to become his ardent fan and to begin emulating this man. Kung Fu schools appeared everywhere in the world, and a lot of young men began learning this particular martial art. They all wanted to become like Bruce Lee. But alas, the astral genius had other plans. It had begun possessing this baby, which was later christened as Bruce Lee, long before it was born. So much so that this genius possessed this boy even before he knew about this, and that was precisely the reason why he could wade through several types of opposition and strife from all sides in his short 32-year-old career. Just as this boy appeared in this world as a genius possessed kung fu martial arts artist, he also passed on suddenly without any provocation on the afternoon of some day in March 1973. Though he was only 33 by that time, he is today hailed as an international icon and star and is a hero in the eyes of all young blood all over the world. We must all take a leaf out of the life of Bruce Lee and try to emulate this guy and pray that some genius from the astral world, which was once a living entity and which has already shed its gross body and its etheric body, possess us in such a way that we represent that genius in this material world and perform incredible feats of action in some chosen field of ours. This will happen only when our own storage of karma, called Sanchit karma, is so good that when a slice of that karma called prarabdha karma is used by us to be born in some lifetime as a foundation for our life in some other birth, we may attract some genius from the astral world to possess us. Yes, we do not know how it will feel when we are possessed by genius, but yet we can hope or safely presume that we will be prepared for such possession by genius and that we will be able to digest, regulate, and monitor the extraordinary energy generated by such possession of a genius in our own lifetime. This should be one of our aims, along with our aim to get self realized, liberated, and ultimately get delivered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular matter. Please give me your own expert opinions, thoughts, ideas, and views so that I may blend everything together for the sake of this society. Before concluding, let me tell you that I am also a published author with Amazon Kindle and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan